Hey there, tuners and tunies, and you just caught me playing my favourite game of all time, Fortnite. You know, that game that all the cool kids play. Oh dear, I'm gonna lose all my non-existent friends after I say this. Fortnite is pretty bad. Like, not 3 out of 10 bad, not one of the worst games of the year bad, just, well, bad to mediocre. It's the kind of game that you'd never need to cover in a video since A, it wouldn't be funny enough to rip apart, and B, it wouldn't be well known enough to get people to click on the video. Yeah, well, here we are. Fortnite is a game that, regardless of quality, has managed to become one of the most popular games of the year, thanks in part to exposure from YouTubers, its similarity to similar games, and one key point: it's free. It is incredibly easy to access for anyone who owns a PS4, Xbox, PC, and now even smartphones. And while you still need to pay for gold on Xbox, on PlayStation, and thus PC and smartphones, the experience is completely free. This game is currently one of the most played games on Twitch, even overtaking giants on a platform such as Hearthstone, PUBG, and at one point even topped the king, League of Legends. So many people are obsessed with this game, die-hard fans. But that still doesn't answer my question. Why am I making a video about it? Sure, I think it's overrated, but I think that about many other games. So why have I made a video specifically about Fortnite? Well, it's because my friends won't shut up about it. Yeah, a few months ago everyone began telling me to play Fortnite non-stop, despite me clearly not being very interested. Then, when I finally played it a few months ago and declared I didn't like it, one of my friends, I won't name names, but you can probably work out who, said I didn't like it only because I was bad at it. Let me just get on my notes here and... Oh, here it is. Being bad at a game doesn't automatically mean you hate it. Team Fortress 2, both Splatoons, Overwatch, all games I love to bits, and all games I'm a bog standard player at. For crying out loud, TF2 is probably in my top 10 games of all time, and yet I still suck as Sniper, Soldier, Demo Man, and Spy, and I can only barely play classes like Scout, Engineer, and Medic. And to be fair, I'm not even bad at Fortnite either. Within the first 3 hours I managed to get to the top 10, which my friends were keen to remind me isn't very hard, but for me it was kind of an achievement. And then I only died because some pros decided to build a fort and I got shot with a rocket. My hatred for Fortnite runs far deeper than just me sucking at the game. But then when I thought about it for a few seconds, I realised that the opposite is true. I hate Fortnite because no skill is involved in playing it. In a game such as TF2, every death is thanks to you and you alone. It's only you that chose a bad place to stand to snipe somebody and then ended up sniped yourself. It's only you that charged full force into the crowd, dying instantly as the entire team mows you down in seconds. It's only you that caused your sentry to explode thanks to poor placement, your inability to keep the thing alive, or being backstabbed by a spy who you failed to deal with correctly. Everything is in your control, and that's what makes the game fun to play, regardless of whether you died or not. The game is fair, and you are the one in control. Your fault if something goes wrong. In Fortnite, the opposite is true. From the very start of the match, you are relying on picking a spot that few to no people have picked, which you don't know when choosing, as well as relying on the place you picked having enough loot to survive against anyone else trying to attack you. If you somehow manage to survive that and get into a fight, it essentially becomes a rock, paper, scissors battle where one person knows the other's move. Combat isn't based on planning, strategy, thinking on your feet. It's based on who has the better weapon. That's it. Some people may argue that that's the entire point of Fortnite. This style of combat forces you to keep searching for new weapons and ammo, which keeps the game intense and exciting. But, in my opinion, something which we're surprisingly enough allowed to have, combat in a shooter should be more than just stats on a gun. It should be dynamic, interactive, and reward thinking on the spot, instead of being based entirely on whether you've got a green or a pink weapon. To break up the tension a little bit, I've decided to introduce a new segment to my show, Reading Viewer Comments. Now, this is a long-awaited segment, and I've got a couple of replies here. This one from Xbox Gamer 454, who writes, haven't you forgotten about the building mechanics? They're my favourite part of Fortnite. No, I haven't forgotten, I was just about to go on to them. But there is a distinct problem.
Kill yourself!
The one noticeable difference between Fortnite and the 5 billion other Battle Royale games is its building mechanics, and is what many would likely point to as this game's form of creative combat. While a fair point on paper, it begins to fall apart once you realise how truly limited the building controls are, restricting you to a slow and clunky menu with little choice for construction of any sort. The idea is to create barricades in order to balance the combat slightly, but in practice, you're likely not going to have enough time to create one against an opponent that has a 2-hit kill weapon. The only major use for the construction tools is to climb buildings throughout the game, to get to chests, and in the endgame, when creating a base is much more important when practically everyone is on the same level weapon-wise. Or you could spend your time creating a crab demon like this guy. We've got some more viewer mail here. This one comes from xxfighter_HDXX, a passionate Fortnite gamer, who writes, "You seem to have forgotten about how it feels to kill somebody. The adrenaline you feel during the fight, followed by the luscious relief as their body slumps to the ground, dead and unmoving." I agree, that is one area I haven't touched upon yet, how the combat is incredibly—
Kill yourself!
Yes, killing somebody in Fortnite is extremely satisfying, much more so than any other shooter, due to two factors: the loot you receive from it, and the danger to your own life that you are overcoming. Let me explain the second one. In a game such as TF2, kills are satisfying, yes, but not very satisfying, since there, the potential for death isn't as scary, due to having the ability to respawn in no time at all, and the only thing that you're losing is a kill streak. Compare that to Fortnite, where every battle is the difference between life and closing the game in fury. This drives you to do well in fights, and when you manage to succeed, the relief you feel is extraordinary. But then again, this raises another issue. Death is incredibly draining to you as a player. As soon as you die in a fight, you're not asking questions such as how could I do better, or what could I have done differently in order to improve. You're just salty. Death isn't a worthwhile outcome. You can't say, well, at least I learned what not to do in that situation, or at least I took some health off of him, or, well, I still contributed to my team at least. Instead, you die, sit there annoyed for a second, and then you return to the main menu. Death is pointless. I've got an email this time from the self-proclaimed Legendary Gamer 672, which says, "You seem to be hating on Fortnite a lot, but is there anything you like about the game?" Well, I'm glad you asked, LG. There is a couple of things I somewhat enjoy about Fortnite. The first one
Kill
being—
yourself. Kill yourself. Also kill yourself. Kill yourself. Also kill yourself.
Yes, there are parts of this game which are executed well. Mainly three things: match length, art direction, and map design. Matches are short. Very short. Even if you get to the top 5, it still only takes 20 minutes, which lowers the amount of unhappy points you receive when getting killed. Load times are also very fast. I die, 10 seconds to get back to the lobby, 10 seconds to find another match, 10 seconds to load the match. That is great in comparison to other games, and allows for you to easily get back into the game after a death. The art style is also somewhat appealing, being quite unique in comparison to current shooters such as Battlefield and Call of Duty. Everything is clearly defined, which makes it easier to spot opponents from a distance. The problem with it is that it isn't always consistent. TF2, the art style for every map is consistent. Everything feels part of the same world that is lived in, even community-made maps. Splatoon, everything has a very cartoony style, and it all looks out of the 80s and 90s with skate ramps, the weird soundtrack, and the actual concept of the game as a whole. Even games such as Call of Duty and Battlefield are incredibly consistent with their presentation, with a gritty style. Fortnite has a unique style, yes, but it isn't incredibly consistent, and it is also, in my opinion, very bland. One area looks right out of a cartoon show, and another looks drained and lifeless. Some buildings are very weird, or intentionally cliché, like the small suburban town, and then there's other buildings which just look, well, normal, with no real flair. The map design itself is great though. There are loads of areas to explore, a boggy swamp, a construction yard, some air hangars, a house surrounded by a forest, and that's just scratching the surface. This map is designed in such a way that no two games are ever the same, simply based on where you land and where the map encloses. The problem with having so many areas, however, is that half of them will be completely ignored by most players, since if you pick an edge location, you're likely going to have to run to the other side of the map in order to stay within the safe zone. Similarly, many areas are simply not worth the risk at all. Loot Lake, for example, will almost always result in you dying, either from landing with the 5 other people who chose the same area, or from someone such as myself sniping you when you swim back to dry land. This restricts you to smaller, less visited areas which, while having less loot, are typically much easier to survive at.
And that is essentially all I have for positives. I'm serious, I have no others. I could talk about how the game is addictive, and arguably so, it is very, but that's more about the driving force behind getting first than just the game being fun to play. And overall, that's all I've got.
Fortnite is a game that, while I can see why it got so popular, I cannot understand its continued success. Everything feels either slightly off, broken, or downright terrible, and the few redeeming qualities it has are typical of many other games anyway. It's a game that I was constantly running into issues with, and even when I was having fun, it was only due to my personal success, not because the game is fun to play. The reliance on luck, the terrible combat, and the lackluster building concept just add up to a game that personally is a total waste of time. Fortnite isn't garbage, no, but in my opinion, it isn't much better.
And so that wraps up my Fortnite review. Do feel free to insult me in the comment section below and leave this video a big fat dislike. We do have one more comment from an unknown sender, however, who writes, have you ever got a victory royale? You probably haven't, since you're such a big noob. The answer to that is no, I'm not going to waste any more of my life playing this game, but I must know, what do you actually get for coming first? Well, I'm sold!